Hey everybody, it's Finley. It's October 28th at 9:03 p.m. So there's, ever since I posted my It Gets Better video and my crying video, and actually talking about things that are trans related rather than things that are necessary. Well, I talked about things that pertain to my personal life, but I also I expounded upon a lot of things regarding my transition, partial though it may be, and about my experiences with bullying. And before, when I had channels on YouTube, I wasn't all that great about talking about things that were trans related because it was right before I moved to Portland and I had some stuff going on personally. So that's why I didn't talk about as many trans things. But obviously, the main point of this channel is to talk about trans related things and GLBT things in general. So I'm going to do that. I'm also going to talk about my hair and the fact that it looks red, but it's not. It's dark brown. I don't know why you needed to know that, but you did. So part of this is going to be a response to a response, and then the next part is going to be talking about something that is not stressful, and were it to make me cry, it would be out of happiness rather than stress. So, that having been said, I can't pronounce your YouTube name because I don't have the presence of mind to be literate right now, apparently. So, but you know who you are, and you're awesome, and you had some incredibly spot on things to say about my coping mechanism being what it is. And, that's gotten me into a lot of trouble in recent years. I've done that where I take on a lot and I think that I can accomplish all of these things. And I'm really, or I have been until recently, really bad about kind of stepping back and evaluating, my priorities and not being so intense. And I've always been a really intense person to begin with, but I think I became even more intense after spending a little time in the military. I wasn't in for long, I was only in for 7 months before I broke my hip and they kicked me out because of some pre existing knee problems. So I've just always been super intense, and I've always, gone into things head first and then gotten in over my head and got overwhelmed and life fell apart. And so I'm really making a conscious effort to not allow that to happen this time around. I'm a very ambitious person, and you kind of have to be when you're a singer because there's so much competition, and you have to have that one thing that pushes you over the edge that will get you noticed. In addition to having a good voice, obviously you have to be talented, but you also have to have something that makes you stand out. And for me, that thing has been being transgender, but that's not the point of this response video. You were totally right about everything you said. I grew up, my dad was a mental health counselor and still is in a hospital in my hometown. And so I grew up knowing that it was okay to talk about things, but it was not okay to cry. I never really understood that. And I'm also really sensitive, in addition to being really intense. Um, so we would watch movies. An example that I'm just getting off the top of my head is The Sound of Music. I always cry when I watch that movie. It's my all-time favorite, and it's just awesome. And so it's a beautiful story, and I always wind up in tears. And when we had movie night as a family, I would always leave during the really intense parts because otherwise I'd start crying and I would get called out on it. And so for a long time, crying was bad. And I would always be ostracized for being too sensitive, which is something that I've since lost about myself. I'm not as sensitive as I was several years ago. But I think, things harden you, and as you get older, you might lose some of that sometimes. But the fact that I did cry the other night is pretty great. Um, and it's indicative of progress. I think I'm starting to realize what I do to cope with this and how counterproductive it is. So I'm in the process of making things easier on myself and fixing it. And I think it's awesome that you're so willing um, to talk to help other people in your community, to maybe give advice and just do what you did in that response video. That's awesome. It's so great that you're articulate enough and that you're comfortable enough in doing that. And I really am looking forward to watching Trannystar Galactica more and your personal channel more. So anyway, there's that. You're awesome. That's the moral of that story. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is in and of itself pretty overwhelming. But, okay, so yesterday I got back together with my ex. I met her the day I moved down from Portland to Seattle. And I can't really describe what it was like to see her for the first time, because it was one of those experiences that that you can't liken to anything else, because there's no other experience quite like meeting someone and feeling immediately upon meeting them that I don't know. I have no words, which is rare because I always have something to say. But I can't really find words to describe what it was like meeting her and getting to know her and being with her, and then how I felt when I thought I had to end the relationship, because I was scared. I was scared of the deep feelings I was having because I had experienced them once before in a relationship with a male, a cisgender male, that ended horribly. And maybe someday I will make a video about that, but I'll leave that for another time. But I was afraid of how deeply I felt for her, and I was afraid that the age difference was going to be a big deal because she's significantly older than I am, and I was afraid that, her family would disapprove, and that the situation surrounding our relationship was going to be too difficult to work around. And so initially I broke it off because I was overwhelmed. Which feeds into the video about crying and, making priorities and saying I need to do this and that and this and that. So the dissolution of that relationship was because of this counterproductive coping mechanism that I've always had. But we kept in touch. I saw her a handful of times after we broke up. She would come down to Portland, and she lives on the border between Washington and Portland, or Oregon, excuse me. And so she would come down and we would hang out every once in a while. But we would always fight. Like, she took a trip to Vegas and hung out with some other people who were interested in her, and I found myself getting jealous, which is a trait I've acquired in the last few years, but one that also is slowly being phased out. And she would tell me, like, I want you to find someone else. I want you to be happy. It's not fair for you to have to wait for me, but in the back of my mind, I was, there was no question. I just couldn't. There could be no one else. How could there be someone else who is that great? Um, and I didn't date anyone during this time, and I didn't specifically seek it out. Like, I had an OkCupid profile for a while, but nothing really happened. There was some noise, but none of that came to fruition. And finally, the turning point, where we both realized that we were just lying to ourselves about not being together, was Tuesday, when her first grandchild was born. And she sent me pictures of this beautiful, and everyone says that, babies that they know of are beautiful, but this child is literally perfect. And she would send me pictures of this baby, and it, again, there are no words for my reaction. And seeing her so excited about her grandchild and so excited about this new chapter of her life really spoke to me, and it somehow reminded me of why I fell in love with her in the first place. And I was up really late last night, or the night before. That was Tuesday night. So I was up late Tuesday night, extremely late. Like, I slept through my English class the next day. But oh my God, I only have 3 more minutes, and this is going to take longer than that. But I was up late thinking about, what I felt in my gut and what I felt in my heart. And I concluded that I've spent so much time in my head over the last couple months, that there's been a disconnect, and I really need to listen to my heart now more than anything else. And I really need to do what is best for me emotionally at this point. And I know how much I love this woman, and I know that the circumstances are far less than ideal. And I know that because of the age difference and because of so many other factors, I know that, it's not going to be easy. I know all those things. But I also know that I've never felt the way I feel about her, about anyone else. And I've had some pretty great relationships. I've been blessed with some fantastic significant others, but I've never felt the way I feel about this woman. My dog is ruining this video. Stop. Calm down. Rein it in. She is a kerfloppity golden retriever named Dylan, and she's wanting to not be in her crate anymore. So I should probably let her out. Back together with my ex. She's actually coming down tomorrow. And we're going to spend the day together and talk and figure things out, and we're going to take it slow. Are you done? Good girl. And we're going to take it slow, and it's going to be awesome. So that is it for now, and I will talk at you all more later. Bye.